Yes.
Okay. Shauna, she was shaking her
Yes, I
head.
agree with Scott. You can still have the meeting even if it doesn't work on the television. Thank you.
Yeah,
We
we'll
will
have-
join it eventually. And I can get this Zoom recording from Carrie tomorrow and play with it to make it work.
Okay.
All right, so we'll go ahead and start the City of North St. Paul City Council regular meeting for April 20th. Call the meeting to order, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can mute your mics, and I'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jenny, if you could take the roll.
Councilmember Thorson is absent. Councilmember Peterson,
Here.
Councilmember Wong,
Here.
Councilmember Cole,
Here.
Mayor Furlong.
Here. Scott, do you want to make a little announcement first before we?
Yeah, Mayor, thank you, Council. Yeah, just with this afternoon and events and all the quick and sudden changes we had with the meeting and going to a virtual status only this evening. Get Carrie on the meeting with us this evening. I want to give her the opportunity to just kind of give you an update on some of the things that we did this afternoon, and just some of the other issues that we're continuing to work with and find out about. Carrie.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you, City Manager Dudek. There's been the last few council meetings, there's been some questions about how the agendas and stuff perform and display on our website. The way our system works is anytime we touch a record, it will trigger an amended agenda if we've changed the agenda or not. And 9 times out of 10, we're not changing the agenda. If we are making a substantive change to the agenda, we will certainly note it in red, we'll note it in the comments. But what our system does, like for instance, today, when we went in at, I think 4:03 and decided that the meeting had to go to virtual, as soon as I have to touch that record and trigger a change in the meeting, just changing the content, saying that this meeting is virtual only, it triggers an additional agenda. The agenda is not changed. It's just that that record's been touched. Maureen mentioned the recording. When I will go in tomorrow and I will take the Zoom recording and switch out the connection link to the recording link, that will trigger another agenda. So we're kind of caught between what our technology will let us do. I did check with our web provider. It's a system so that, you know, we're being, you know, as transparent as we can, which is what we're all about. But I do want to assure, you know, the residents of North St. Paul and our elected people that, you know, this is what's happening. And if we are making a substantive change in the agenda, we are not only noting it in the agenda, so it's obvious, we're also making those notes in the meeting notes that display on the website. So that's really what is going on. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them. We would have had an absolutely perfect meeting with one agenda, but then everything happened this afternoon. And again, by updating to our residents to let them know that this was a virtual meeting only, by touching that record, it triggers another agenda.
Carrie, does if you do an update on an agenda, does that look different than just the regular agenda?
What it does is if you look on the website, it'll say previous versions and it's the exact same agenda. It's just that every time that record is touched, that's what it does. I did check with our web provider. You know, this has been going on here for a couple of weeks. There's been concerns about it, and I checked with our provider, and it's a safeguard built into the system that we can't override. If you go back and look at the EDA meeting from a couple weeks ago, when I go in and I switch the Zoom link to post the recording like we've promised to have our residents to have available, that triggers an additional agenda as well. It's kind of a protection that's built into our software. We will be moving to Civic Clerk. I don't know if we're going to have those same types of experiences when we move to this different platform, but that's what's happening. And I just really want to assure everybody that if we are making a substantive change to the agenda, it will be clear and obvious.
If a resident opens it up, which agenda will he grab?
You'll see the most recent agenda is always the one at the top.
Okay,
But I know there's been comments where people like, they're looking into trying to find the differences, and there isn't a difference. The only difference is that we've touched the record. And in these days of virtual meetings, we are touching these records because we're working really hard to make sure that we've got access links and instructions to our residents. And I was so hoping to have a perfect meeting with one agenda, and then we had the emergency situation this afternoon where we had to notify the public about the changes in our meeting status, and that triggered another agenda.
okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Terry,
Is there
what
any other-
about, Terry, if also we had the issue with our text messaging?
Yeah, so let's see. Let's have, it was like a not a good technology day. Maureen, you're not the only person who's had tech problems today. Our OpenGov servers were down for a good portion of the day. And when we triggered the safety alert, we fired out the alert this afternoon to notify our residents about the virtual meeting. And our web provider left the security certificate on the site lapse. So if people would have clicked into that message, and maybe you guys are subscribed to that link, if you clicked into the message, you got all kinds of, this is an unsecure website, and you know, caution, caution, danger, danger. And it was a certificate that expired, I believe, 1 o'clock today. And since I have been in the office and since now tonight, we've already gotten a confirmation from our web provider that the issue's been fixed, and anybody who proactively now will click through in that link will go to the website without any issue.
It's all about timing.
It's, yeah, I mean, and why, of all days, why was today the day that they decided to let that certificate, that security certificate expire?
Right.
So I apologize for any, confusion that may have happened when people got that. But really when we're locked down by what our provider, what we can push out through our provider, that's kind of where we're at right now.
Okay.
But we worked in a matter of minutes. We notified our residents, we updated our meeting agendas, we posted signs at City Hall and got alerts out. So, in a matter of 10 to 15 minutes, we had taken care of what we needed to do to keep all of our residents informed.
Thank you.
very much, Terry.
Okay, so at this time, motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Wong,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Jenny, if you take the roll.
Councilmember Peterson,
Aye.
Councilmember Wong,
Aye.
Councilmember Cole,
Aye.
Mayor Furlong.
Aye. Agenda is adopted. We have no presentations. The consent agenda is the April 6th workshop meeting minutes, the April 6th regular meeting minutes, general accounts payable of $1,646,236 and a penny, HRA accounts payable of $1,506. At this time, if anybody wants to pull anything from the consent agenda, they can do so. Everybody's okay with it? If not, if everyone's okay with it, motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cole, second by Councilmember Peterson. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Jenny, if you take the roll.
Councilmember Peterson,
Aye.
Councilmember Wong,
Aye.
Councilmember Cole,
Aye.
Mayor Furlong.
Aye. Consent agenda is approved. At this time, meeting open to the public. And I'll turn over to city manager for anybody out in the audience who would like to speak to the council.
Let me check and see if we have anybody's hands raised. If anybody wants to speak that's monitoring. I do not see anything at this time, Mayor.
Okay. We have no public hearings and city business action items. City manager Dudek.
Mayor, Council, thank you. The first item that we have this evening is an update with our FMLA policy. We have Shana Conklin, our attorney, here this evening to present that and answer any questions that you have on that.
Okay,
Good evening.
go ahead,
Mayor.
Shayna.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. You'll see before you an amended Family Medical Leave Act, or FMLA policy. The updates are really meant to reflect what is currently happening. They're not really policy changes per se, but rather clarifications. As you can see, some of the updates are as minor as just updating to the correct numbered section. Sometimes laws change different section numbers, so that's relatively straightforward. The other clarification is just on page 2 of that policy, indicating that any FMLA leave would run concurrent with any other benefits. This is a standard practice of most cities and employers. You can see this in most policies that municipalities have, in that if you do take FMLA, typically your other benefits are going to run at the same time. And that's typically because FMLA leave in and of itself is unpaid leave. So in order to receive compensation during that 12-week period, we do have a policy that those benefits would run concurrently so that you would receive pay even while you're on that unpaid FMLA leave. And then if we go to page 3 of the policy, you'll see some clarifications in the medical certification. This is consistent with federal law, just indicating that if somebody does provide a medical certification, they need to do so within a certain period of time that's reasonable. They may also be asked to recertify if there is any question as to the validity of the certification that the employee provided. This is all standard practice as well, and it's something that's within the federal law itself. It's just simply a clarification to add it to our policy so that any employee would be able to read and maybe more readily have that information in front of them than having to go access the federal law to see that that is the general policy with medical certifications. As well, you'll see some changes with the intermittent leave. This is typically if somebody has a chronic medical condition, for example, that may be subject to periods of time where it's exacerbated or worsened, and other times where it's not as much of an issue. That employee might seek what's called intermittent leave, meaning that they won't take all of their 12 weeks at once, but they'll spread it out based on perhaps receiving medical treatment, or perhaps just based on the condition itself, if it has a more serious nature at certain times, more so than it does at other times. So that's just to clarify that policy. And then at the bottom of page 3, there's changes to the return to work policy, just to again indicate that the employee, when they would like to return to work after an FMLA leave, they will be required to submit what's called a fitness for duty report, and that they do have an obligation to provide that report in a timely manner. And then as well, that they may have to provide that even if they're using intermittent leave. So that's an update. Those are the updates actually that were made to or suggested to be made to the policy. And then what follows is simply the policy without any of those red line changes, so that you could see what it looks like if it were to be adopted. I did review the Minnesota League of Cities Family Medical Leave Act policy and incorporated some of the language you see here tonight is from their policy. Other language is simply just taken from the Family Medical Leave Act and just incorporated into the policy in hopes that employees reading it will find that information to be a bit more accessible than if we just ask them to consult with the federal law to determine what the procedure is with some of these specific conditions. So with that, if you do have any questions for me, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for Shayna? Not, the motion
I have a
is
question.
for, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just a little bit of a clarification question. Does it specify who does the report, a fitness for report, duty to report?
Does our policy specify who does? the
Yeah, so
fitness?
is it consultation with their medical provider that needs to provide that, or is that self-reported?
That's a good question. The fitness for duty report is their medical provider completing that. There is a form that we typically do use when there's a fitness for duty report that certainly we could provide it to an employee if they were in that scenario. And that form would provide more detailed information regarding what exactly they needed to do to be able to show us a fitness for duty report. It is not spelled out in the policy right here, though, all of the ins and outs of that, or that it would need to be a particular medical provider. But that there is a form associated with that particular report that would be provided to any employee who was in that situation.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, the motion is for resolution adopting amended Family and Medical Leave Act policy. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Cole,
Second.
second by Councilmember Wong. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, opposed nay. Jenny, if you take the roll?
Councilmember Peterson,
Aye.
Councilmember Wong,
Aye.
Councilmember Cole,
Aye.
Mayor Furlong.
Aye. Motion is approved. City Manager Dudek.
Mayor, council, thank you. Next item that we have on the agenda is the downtown streetscape plan. This is something that we've talked about a few times, workshop and other. Also had this at the Business Association meeting previously, actually twice previously. And I'll show the screen here so we can look at that again. If you recall, this is the layout that we had looked at previously. This was the original design. We have our city engineer, Morgan Dolly, is online with us also. Morgan, if you want to make comments as we go along the way, feel free. What we have here, though, this is the original drawing that shows the circular patterns that would have been scribed into the concrete throughout the downtown and the area. And this design would carry throughout the entire downtown as we, continue to rehab those areas moving forward. This is the, go to the next page here. This again shows the streetscape that was proposed in this design. Here you can see some of those patio areas. And again, what this design is moving towards and why we're looking to confirm these changes is on this next slide, I believe, shows it. This is a good example of it here, where the original design showed some of these concrete, permanent concrete seed planters that would be molded into there or poured into the concrete. So what the proposal is now, and we vetted this with multiple groups, the Business Association, it's been back to them twice, and everybody supports this change, would be to eliminate these permanent concrete structures and also this raised concrete planter edges. And what we're thinking about with this, it just gives us much more flexibility, for use of the downtown, for snow plowing and snow removal in the wintertime. This would not be there. This 4-inch high curb would not be there. That's something that would be, we're concerned about that under snow cover plowing in the wintertime. We're just trying to really do things that we can make sure that we have a longevity with this and not have damage early on. And again, this would provide the potential then for outdoor seating with movable tables and chairs, along with these movable planter boxes. And these planters are just an example. There's been no finalization to what will be used, what product will be used for the tables and chairs or the planters. But just again to highlight that this is proposed to be removed. This concept would be used throughout the entire downtown area. And then the concrete control joints, this is what we're proposing now, is to go to more of a simplified pattern and rectangular shape. So over time, if we have to replace panels or something like that, it's a much easier to match in with this than trying to match those circular patterns and those concrete benches that would be poured in. So looking for council for your input on this and to formally accept this design of this rectangular patterns and elimination of the permanent concrete seat benches. With that, I'll give some time for Morgan to comment on this also.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So yeah, I would just piggyback on, and it's basically reiterating what we talked about last time when this was first in front of council. These are practical changes. These are long-term maintenance focused changes, a little bit more simplistic, I guess, in aesthetic, but also I think will allow the city over the life of the downtown improvements that are happening here 2020, 2021, but we want to make sure that they're here for generations. And the easier maintenance, if a concrete panel needs to be replaced or to be able to, for example, rearrange or seasonally or for special events, be able to change things out there in terms of movable planters, I think these changes are recommended and will certainly allow for more flexibility and again, ease and probably cost-effective replacement or maintenance measures moving forward. So, that the overall kind of look and feel of downtown can be maintained as long as possible. Many of us may remember what was there before, and in some of the older parts still, there's kind of a patchwork of different colors of concrete, different types of concrete. This will be a lot simpler, I think. Pretty minor changes. We're not, in fact, I think there might be a slight price reduction because we're getting rid of some of those raised items, which is hand-formed concrete work. But again, more of a maintenance-focused and practicality-focused change here in front of the council for consideration tonight. And I also would like to add, if it's okay, Scott, too, after the first time that staff presented this to council, we did hear some comments about ADA accessible parking stalls within the downtown area that are not depicted on these graphics. And these graphics were simply meant to illustrate aesthetics, the layout of the concrete jointing, as Scott mentioned, where the light poles were, for example, seating areas. It's certainly not an indication of the actual final striping or ADA accessibility. Those things are included in the final plans and will be implemented in the project before it's all said and done. So I just wanted to clarify that for the council and the public as well, too. So if there's any questions, certainly myself or Scott will answer those at this time.
Morgan, we had mentioned at the corner there of that flower, yeah, it's to the right of the, I
I don't
can't see,
think I have that one, but I know what you're talking about, Mayor. Let's see
of
if I-
cutting it back.
I think it's page 42 in our packet.
Yeah, it's kind of right off the screen, or maybe if you scroll right,
Yeah.
Scott, on that last one there. I know what you're talking about
There you
there,
go.
right
Right
up
here.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that may be if I can use a casual term here, a game time decision, but the idea is to basically take out some of that planting area to make a more kind of a softer transition for people that might be walking, for example, from the ped ramp north. And so if council approves of this design in concepts before the final construction plans are modified to accommodate these changes, we'll include that in there. I guess just to clarify, what I'm seeing is if we cut that corner, let's see, can I annotate? Is that possible? If we cut the corner like this, something like that, if that's showing up on your screens.
Yes, it is.
I think that will facilitate kind of what you're talking about, Mr. Mayor. Am I
Well,
accurate?
even, I was thinking the line going, yep,
Oh, even take a little bit more out, sure. Oh yeah, we could like that. We're gonna have dueling crayons here.
yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, Scott and I can work on that. We'll,
I think people, especially during the car show, there's so many people that congregate right there. And the light changes, you know, they're being pushed more out towards the south side rather than the north side.
correct. And they may be wanting to head, if you want to call that, due east around the corner. We don't want them stepping into the corner of the planting area if we can
Correct.
help that. Yep.
Correct.
Yep, understood.
So I guess I'd like to see what that looks like before you actually do it. So to me, it's just more or less kind of getting rid of those semicircle seating
Correct.
area.
Correct, and going to this rectangular
And going to
control
the
joint
rectangle.
design, that's really the big change. And then getting rid of these concrete seat benches that were down there, which will open up again the downtown, you know, for the seating in the summertime. Then this would be removed in the fall for the wintertime, and then plowing and everything is a much cleaner open area.
And the council will have say in what those plantings are gonna look like and the outdoor furniture.
Absolutely, we'll
I'm
be
assuming.
coming up with some proposed furniture and planters and things like that and bring that back. But at this point, we're just looking to get the sidewalk design approved so we can move ahead and get the plans updated, because we're hopeful to get sidewalk work started here in the soon near future.
Any questions for Scott?
And
Councilmember
sidewalk
White?
coloration is going to be natural.
Correct.
Councilmember Juan?
Yeah, I have a question for Morgan. I'm looking at the curb cuts that you have on the eastern portion. Is it typical for curb cuts to be larger if it's a little bit heavier of a pedestrian and there's more foot traffic? Or is that, you know,
Sure, that's a good question. I think the width of the curb cut in this particular installation is controlled a bit by the skew of the intersection. So it's not a 90-degree angle, right? And so kind of the minimum width would be for a typical sidewalk crossing that you might see in a residential neighborhood that might not be as heavily traveled as downtown, might be around 4 or 5 feet, I guess. And so these are going to be a little bit wider, both because they're a little bit heavier pedestrian traffic, but mostly because we're trying to fit that crossing in non-perpendicular to the gutter line or the curb line, if I'm trying to explain that using words, and hopefully that makes sense. Does that explain it okay?
I think so. Yes, thank you.
Councilmember Peterson, I can't see you, so I don't know if you,
I'm here. I've seen the, the presentation a couple of times. I like it a lot. It's clean and slick. And I think what the changes are going to be good. So I'm on board about it. Thank you.
good.
Okay.
All right, I think, is there a resolution or? No,
There wasn't a resolution. I think it was just a
just a rec,
recommendation and passage with you. There wasn't a resolution attached to it.
well, we can do a motion to,
Approved.
motion to accept the removal of permanent concrete benches and planters. And
Correct.
update the sidewalk layout, removing circular design.
Correct.
Okay, is there a motion for that?
So moved, Your Honor.
Moved by Councilmember Peterson. Is there a second?
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any other discussion?
I didn't see Councilmember Wong's mute light come off, so I figured I'd jump in.
All those in favor signify by saying aye, opposed nay. Jenny, if you take the roll?
Councilmember Peterson.
Aye. That was not me.
I am so sorry. Councilmember Wong,
Aye.
Councilmember Cole,
Aye.
Mayor Furlong.
Woof. Yeah, yes, aye.
I am so sorry.
All right. It's all about timing, Jenny. It's all about timing. So,
And right now she's scurrying to move the dog into the other room.
yeah, right. All right. City Manager Dudek.
Mayor Council, the next item that we have is the SID project 18-01, and this is for final payment, and I'll have Morgan Dolly present that.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So this is the final payment on the second contract that was a part of the, I guess commonly known as the Silver Lake Improvements Project. So that was the 2018 Street and Utility Improvement Project that was, some of you may recall, broken into two efforts. The first effort or contract was mostly the underground utilities, water main, sanitary sewer, and that sort of thing that was handled in 2018. And then in 2019, this contract, or bid package 2 as it's referred to, handled the streets and some of the drainage and storm sewer improvements throughout the Silver Lake neighborhood area. So everything's been completed, punch list addressed. This kind of a housekeeping item here that it took so long to bring this back in front of you. They had completed their final voucher earlier in the year and then recontacted us and had forgotten to pay one of their subcontractors. So everything needed to be redone all over again. I will note that we are approximately 7% over the contract amount. The explanation for that is that for some of the line item construction pay items that are measured by quantity, we did more of, and the large contributor to that 7% overage was the section of Park Road between 19th and 20th, which actually was originally slated to be a reclamation portion of the project. But due to some water main breaks on a section of water main that was originally considered in reasonable shape as ductile iron, did experience some failures as we were nearing the end of the first contract. And so that water main was replaced. Once we switched to a water main replacement effort, the reclamation of the road could no longer be completed. So we needed to switch that section to a full reconstruct. So that resulted in a little bit of extra paving, some additional quantity of aggregate material for building the road, certainly a subsection as well too. You know, a little bit more than originally planned, but again, the investment there in that section will last longer than what was originally planned to be done. And certainly we addressed an area of risk in terms of replacing that water main, because even if those breaks had been patched up and lasted for some time, it certainly could have presented itself as an issue in the future. Other than that, there was just some minor additional things. The alley between 19th and 20th was paved. Some additional concrete sidewalk sections were done, including the ADA access from the parking area by Dorothy Park over to the playground. Couple other minor miscellaneous things that added up, but in a general sense, the project was completed satisfactorily. Certainly took a long time. Thank you to all of the residents that live up and around there for dealing with a lot of the time that it took to do such a substantial project. And we certainly had some issues with weather that were a challenge over time. But in large part, a lot of the efforts to save trees, provide water quality improvements for Silver Lake in and around the area, they were successful. And so it's an infrastructure improvement that will hopefully last the city a long time. And this final payment before you tonight for approval does kind of put a cap on that effort, which is a nice thing. A lot of hours, a lot of effort by city staff, project staff certainly went into delivering this. So it's nice to see this completed and moving on to other things within the city. So with that, I'll stand for any questions the council might have. The action item in your packet is a resolution just accepting the project and authorizing the final payment to the contractor.
So Morgan, does that 7% over budget, does that take away the contingency? Was there a contingency in that project? So was used up?
Yeah, our typical plan contingency is 5%, so we are slightly over that. But as I said, we did not know about that water main break section ahead of time, but it was something that, if it were passed on, would certainly probably present some financial risk long-term had we just kind of paved over the top of it. So for slightly more than our contingency, I think that, it's probably an overage that is better addressed now rather than later, I guess would be the way I would present it to council.
I'm just clarifying, so it's 2% over budget then, or is it 7% over budget?
It's 7% over contract, but our typical construction contingency as planned is 5%.
Okay. Any questions for Morgan? Councilmember Wong, I can't see you. I'm assuming no, so.
No questions. Thank you, Morgan.
So the motion is for resolution authorizing final payment for the 2018 street and utility improvement project, bid package number 2, city project number 18-01. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Wong,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye, opposed nay. Jenny, if you take the roll.
Councilmember Peterson,
Aye.
Councilmember Wong,
Aye.
Councilmember Cole,
Aye.
Mayor Furlong.
Aye. Final payment. Thank you, Morgan. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
City Manager Dudek.
Mayor, council, next item that we have is the purchase of a 2020 Ditch Witch hydrovac excavator. And this is a purchase through our electric utility department. I have our electric director here this evening to present this, Brian Frandl.
Welcome, Brian. I just thought we got one of these a few years ago.
The one we have now is 7 years old already. But well, thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to speak tonight.
Yep.
So we had several issues with this current hydrovac that we have, which has proven really to be a critical piece of equipment that we have. So we find utilities this way, whether or not they're 2 inches deep or they're 4 feet deep. You can, you kind of blast the dirt away with water, and then you suck it up into a tank, and it's just a good, clean way to do it. Plus, you look at communications like phone and cable, you can just put the shovel in the ground, and most of the time they're only right underneath the sod. And the critical ones come to both our high voltage electric lines as well as gas mains. We can find them and expose them so much better. It's really become a key piece of equipment for us. So the reason I'm asking this is not a budgetary item. It was unexpected to replace that this year, but like I said in the memo, we had several issues with this piece of equipment. The last time we had it down was a few months ago. They had it for 6 to 7 weeks, and they still said that they hadn't heard back from the manufacturer about the issue that we were having, which was a pump issue, which the first time we replaced it was over $2,000 just to replace that pump. This piece of equipment also comes with a heater on it, so we can cut frost in the wintertime, which is really critical for finding utilities. Otherwise, you're just using a mechanical piece of equipment like a backhoe, and you end up cutting and doing damage to other utilities. So with the trade-in of another piece of equipment that we have, a trencher backhoe, and well, I shouldn't say trade-in. I like to sell it by auction. I think we can do better than what they offered us for a price. With the sale of those 2 pieces of equipment, I think we can cover the cost of the new hydrovac to where it wouldn't have to be necessarily a budgetary item that we had set money aside for, because with the trade in those 2 pieces of vehicles, we really shouldn't have to spend any money out of budget. And if it doesn't quite cover it, it would be very close, and I could cover the rest in my current budget. But like I said, that piece of equipment was down for such a long time. We had issues. We were trying to find either a rental to cover our problems that we could have had during that time. We've also had issues with the vendor itself and doing the mechanical work that needs to be done on the equipment when they have issues. We just had several layers of problems with this, and this being such a critical piece of equipment, this is why I'm in front of you today to ask to be able to get this new piece of equipment.
I assume it's a different vendor.
It is a different vendor. The one we have currently is called Ring-O-Matic, and the new one here is a Ditch Witch. And I've already checked around because we use other bore contractors and they use these every day, and they're familiar with many different varieties and vendors of these. And they recommended this one, that not only is it a good product, but they also have a good vendor that does mechanic work here in the Twin Cities. So it can be worked on a quick manner.
In the piece of equipment, you're going to get the trencher, you're getting rid of another piece that besides the vac?
Yes, we have a piece of equipment. It's a trencher backhoe. So it has a trencher on one end of it and has a backhoe on the other end of it. The issue that we're finding that it's just become less important of a piece of equipment. What we used it for historically was you put the trencher in the ground and you open up a trench and put your conduit in, which it's a trench big enough for, at best, maybe a 4-inch piece of conduit. What we're finding now is the right-of-ways are so busy, and there's already many generations of utilities in there. So I mean, whether or not it's gas or phone and cable, even us in some places, it's so busy that you spend so much time. You can trench a little bit, but then you got a hand dig to go underneath the utility and keep going. That's why it makes so much more economical sense to bore these conduits in that we need to use for replacement and also new construction. So currently what we're doing now, I mean, any project, whether or not it was M&I, whether or not it's the Uptown Commons, whether it's going to be the 7th Street little subdivision that's going up there, that cul-de-sac, even on the Anchor North project, we're having to do joint dig projects. So what we do is we come in with a backhoe and we open up a wide enough trench that we can put all of the utilities in. So we go in there, gas goes in there, communication goes in there, and then it's all taken care of. Because you look at M&I, there's such a small space in that along the road right of way to put all those utilities. You can't possibly go in and us trench in our utility, and then later on another utility comes in, puts theirs in, and so on. There's just not enough space. So any kind of projects that we're doing, that's the way we're doing it. And we're kind of running out of space now with all the projects that we're going on here in North St. Paul with future projects. So it just makes sense to probably dispose of this piece of equipment, because we have the trencher aspect. We have a small trencher that we do for just services to homes. And then the backhoe part of it, we have a larger backhoe, but we also have like mini backhoes that we use for the size of projects that we have.
Any questions for Brian?
Thank you, Brian. I have a question in regards to the lifespan of the Ditch Witch that you're looking at, and you know, if you have an idea about that.
We had pretty good luck. We had prior to the one we own now, we had that for probably 8 to 9 years. And the only reason that we got rid of that one at that time is because they gave us a wonderful trade-in value. And it was a bit of an upgrade from what we had otherwise, but still that piece of equipment was good. So this new Ditch Witch, I would really hope and think that we could get 8, 9, 10 years out of it.
Thank you. And is there any type of warranty or that comes with the purchase?
They do come with a warranty. It's a 1-year warranty on the mechanical aspects of it. So like the motors, the pumps. So it does come with a warranty, correct? There's also the option of buying an extended warranty too, but that is not in this price.
Councilmember Cole?
Just question about it not being a budgeted for item, and recognizing that the last one lasted 8. This last one went 7. The one prior was 8, but we got a nice residual value from it. Will this, moving forward, my assumption is this too will need to be replaced within 10 years. Will it move on and to become a budgetary item?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
Councilmember Peterson, I don't see you, so
Well, I mean, if we, if Brian thinks, I have a lot of faith in Brian. I know my son uses a Ditch Witch and he's been happy with his use of it. And it's expensive, I get that, but we need it, so I'm okay with it, thanks.
it sounds like, Brian, you use it a lot
We do.
for major problems that could occur.
I'll just say, Mayor, the hydro excavation has become the tool of the day. I mean, this is a pull behind trailer mount, but a lot of you have probably seen our Vector unit out, which is a large truck mount deal that we use for sewer cleaning. But they have those that are built in a truck mount for this same type of application. And, the gas pipeline companies, they're using those almost exclusively because, as Brian mentioned, there's so many utilities in the ground in a small area. It's just literally become impossible to dig it with a backhoe or other means other than doing it with this hydro vacuum.
If I could add, the Water and Public Works uses this equipment as well. I mean, when they have one of their valves, they get dirt build up over time, and say it even freezes in the winter. The water that might be in them, they clean them out so they have access to their valves. They've used it for setting signs. It's a pretty well-versed piece of equipment.
Any other questions for Brian? Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Motion is for a resolution authorizing never mind.
Oh, I can bring it back. No, I'll bring it back for it.
Nope, I got it here. Just one more page.
Oh, sorry.
Motion is to purchase a 2020 Ditch Witch HX50 hydro vac excavator. Is there a motion?
So moved, Your Honor.
By Councilmember Peterson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Jenny, take the roll.
Councilmember Peterson,
Aye.
Councilmember Wong,
Aye.
Councilmember Cole,
Aye.
Mayor Furlong.
Aye. Motion is approved. City Manager Dudek.
Mayor, Council, the next item that we have is the purchase of park benches and picnic table for our parks. And this is a recommendation coming forward from the Park and Rec Commission. And we're looking at a couple of different park areas, Colby Hills, Polar Park, and Dorothy Park. And I think I'll turn it over to Councilmember Cole as our Park Commission liaison to discuss it.
Just to cover off a little bit more of the background on this, beginning in February, the Park and Rec Commission started to establish their go-forward plans as council had requested from them. And we sat through multiple hours with the meetings and did inventory of parks that we've updated, parks that are in need of update. What is the 1 to 2, 3 to 5, and beyond plan? And benches and tables came up real quick as a quick solution. Colby Hills, we had just completed a new playground, 88 sidewalk in there. I believe it was last season, and we didn't put any bench in there for them to sit. The property there does have 2 ADA picnic tables, so we were covered off there. I think, Mr. Mayor, that was a question that you may have brought forward to City Manager Dudek. Polar Park, same thing, an ADA sidewalk was put in place, as well as new equipment was put in place last year, but does not currently have an ADA picnic table or a bench, as well as the inventory for Dorothy Park. It was identified real quickly that a bench would be a nice addition as well. The motion as it comes forward is from the Park and Rec Commission that council approved the purchase of 3 benches and 1 ADA table to be installed by Public Works with cost not to exceed $7,000, including material and installation, and funding is from the Park Improvement Fund.
And
So is this where I ask for?
Well, I would just comment a couple other pieces that, I want to make sure that everybody's aware of, because there's, the concerns that we're following ADA requirements, and we're trying to do as much as we can with that in all areas. Dorothy Park is an area that we will, one of these benches will go in up there. It's also an area that we'll look at here in the future of the possibility of adding sidewalk out into the park, and looking at all the parks as a whole. But again, it's not something that we'll review this policy. I have talked to the League of Minnesota Cities about it, and our loss control provider from the league. We'll be setting up a meeting with them to actually do a walkthrough of our parks, not only for ADA issues, but other just potential recommendations on loss control and exposures and things that we should be aware of. And having somebody with a different set of eyes to look at that, and also someone from our insurance carrier. So we will be doing that in the near upcoming future here.
So the motion is for a purchase of park benches and a picnic table. And the benches at Kobe Hills, bench at Polar Park with the ADA picnic table, and a bench at Dorothy Park. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Wong,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye, opposed nay. Jenny, take the roll.
Councilmember Peterson,
Aye.
Councilmember Wong,
Aye.
Councilmember Cole,
Aye.
Mayor Furlong.
Aye. Motion approved. City Manager Dudek, if you got any more. If not, you can go to reports of city manager and departments.
Yep, I will do that. And just again, to follow up on this one, so that the $7,000 not to exceed, so that was just dollars associated with a concrete pad or things like that to mount those, either the bench or picnic table on. Wasn't planned for anything more than that, but I'll follow up with the council on our review with the league and bring you feedback from there.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, the next item, I guess I can go into reports. It's the last business action item that we have for this evening. There was one item that I wanted to carry over from the workshop that we didn't have time to look at there. Let me bring this up on a screen, and this has to do with our with COVID. I wanted to talk about this with COVID and get council's feedback. Put together, let me share this. Put together a kind of a COVID operational policy, for our meetings, for City Hall closure, which I hope we never have to do again. But whether we have meetings in person or they're Zoom meetings exclusively, things of that nature. Let me show you, let me just jump forward to this and see if you can see this. Here's a graph Minnesota Department of Health puts out. And what this shows, if everybody can see that okay, is this is a 7-day rolling average. And this is a snapshot that I put in here just so that everybody can see this. But you can see back in May, we had some real high spikes. We were up over 15%. Then over time, we settled back down below 5%. And 5% and below is where we really want to be. Anything above 5% is a cautionary time, and above 10% is high risk. So this would give us some true data-driven guidance on what to do when. And so I just want to bring this forward for consideration, whether this is something council wants to formally adopt or just allow me as a manager to use this as a tool and then come back with a recommendation that we're going to go to virtual meetings only, or we're going to have to look to close City Hall or any of our other public buildings to the public because we're in this high risk area. And I think in any of these, I'd look to and want to hear your input, but rather than making a sudden change, that maybe there's a sustained 7-day period above those thresholds so that we're not, making changes on a day-to-day move. But that's kind of some background of it. Again, you can see here back in November, we were up to over 15% and we settled down and we spiked up and we came well down below 5% here in February and March. And now today, we're back up over 7%, 7.4%. So we're climbing pretty rapidly again. And this would give us some guidance to that. So what I did is, again, put in here, just sign us some parameters that, 5% or less, all city buildings would remain open. City council meetings would be offered in both a hybrid meeting. So council would be in chambers and we would use Zoom as a hybrid meeting. At the 5.1% to 9.9, buildings would remain open, but all meetings would be held virtually. And then if we moved into a 10% or greater, and here's where I had put in here, if that's sustained for 7 days or more, then we would look at closing all city buildings to the public. And again, meetings would continue virtually. So I wanted to put something together like that and have some discussion and your input.
Scott, we've had some discussion the last week or so, and I'm just thinking now is that, during those peaks and when we did shut down the city hall and made those determinations, I thought we did a pretty good job as a council, talking amongst each other, talking with the city manager in regards to making a commitment from all of us that we would shut down City Hall, shut down the meetings, go to Zoom. I thought we've done a pretty good job at that. This does give you a tool now, because now we got history to show, and that's probably exactly the times that we made those decisions, was those timeframes of those peaks that we made those big decisions to shut down City Hall, to go to Zoom meetings and all that. So I think, using this as a tool and as we're ramping up here, I think it might help us to kind of go through, kind of look at what we did before, past history, if that makes sense, and be able to make those decisions coming from you, the city manager, and then working with the city council. But I'll open it up to other council members of what they think. Anybody else have any ideas? Councilmember Juan?
Yes, thank you, City Manager Dudek. I like the data-driven approach. I think that it provides, and this draft kind of provides a lot of clarity also to the public, should they, understand why we are closing. I think it gives some clarity there. So I think it certainly benefits in that regard. I would have to take a closer look at all the different protocols, but at this time I don't have any further questions based off of what you've presented at this point.
Councilmember Cole, any?
Yeah, does the state have defined guidelines that are laid out like this? Are we following something, or is this just something that we're laying out on our own?
Well, this graph is something that's coming from the state. I put these guidelines together here on how our operations would operate based on that graph.
Okay, because I guess I'm not aligned or agreed by putting hard and fast percentages in there to determine what we're doing.
Right. And that's why I put this forward. I wanted to get some discussion on it. What I'm really looking for, I think what really gives us the guidance is this, is having some graph to follow and when to talk about, what we're going to move to. Because in the past, yeah, we've done it basically, follow the governor's orders. But and I'm definitely not promoting that we close City Hall or anything like that. I'm hoping that we can keep it open from this point forward and we don't go back up to those 15% spikes. But there's many departments and organizations out there that have not reopened from over a year ago. And I'm not promoting that. I'm just looking for something to give us some data-driven guidance on when we should be considering to take action one way or the other.
Councilmember Peterson?
I like it. I think it shows the good and the bad, and I think we should go with this type of protocol, because I don't know if we're going to be out of this anytime soon. And it's just good to have this data. Thank you.
And again, I think if you look at those peaks, I think those, when we were making those decisions, to close and to reopen as they came down. So, I think that the city manager can use this as a tool to make those decisions and talk with the council and how, we feel at that time, whether or not we should do it as a group to make that decision to close or reopen or what have you.
And I'll send this out to everybody for your, to take a look at and give me your comments on. But yeah, this would be a guide to something that we can follow. But I'll make sure we send this out to you.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? All right.
Very good. Other items moving forward. Again, we talked about the sidewalk plans downtown this evening and updating that final plan. So we'll get that moving forward with the plan updates. But barring this 25-degree weather moving out and getting back into the spring season, I would expect that we would try to get going with our sidewalk work downtown in the coming weeks. As you can see, if you've been through the downtown on Monday, traffic lane closure or road closure was put in place on the 7th Avenue Street project between 1st Street and 3rd Street. So crews are back out there beginning to work on that project, working on the center medians, the tree planting going on coming in a couple of weeks. But currently they'll be working in the center islands. They're taking material out of there and getting prepared to put the topsoil in and drain tile, connecting drain tile and things like that in there in preparation for the plantings. So we've got plantings in the center, irrigation to go in as the plants go in, boulevard trees going in on both sides, north and south side of 7th Avenue. The plantings all around the new ponding area that was put in there on the corner of 7th and 1st. All those, a number of plants going in. And then eventually, as time goes on, there'll be the final overlay or the final lift of the new street surface will be applied in the coming probably months. I would assume there'll probably be sometime in June, probably early June would be my guess. And Morgan can comment a little more on the schedule of some of those things if he's got anything to add. But that work has started. And moving along, Morgan, do you have something to add with that?
No, that pretty much lays it out. I think I'm going off of memory, so forgive me if I'm slightly off, but I think contract completion for substantial completion is June 30th. So they do have time, some time to get going, and traffic control is up, so that allows them plenty of room to work. So we're hoping for, good progress and getting towards that final lift of asphalt paving as soon as possible.
Hey, Morgan, on the south side, going up the hill there towards the 5-way stop, is that a hard stop for that sidewalk, or is that going to go right through the street? Because I know that we eventually want to do work on the 5-way.
Right now, I think, Mayor, what you're talking about, that sidewalk just kind of stops in
Yeah.
nowhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
so so what you're talking about is, well, probably, I think what we're thinking about, Morgan, you can correct me, but I think what would do is potentially maybe we bring an asphalt, tie a piece of asphalt temporarily out to the street. Is that what you're getting to, Mayor? So it just
Yes.
doesn't dead end in the grass,
Yes.
Yeah, on the north side or on the south side?
south
Yeah.
side.
On the
South side.
south side. Yeah, I think that's correct. We knew that as we get up to the intersection there, and that intersection may see some improvements at some point, but we didn't want to put all concrete in if it might get replaced, right? So some of that would be a temporary asphalt connection, but certainly function as a sidewalk, right? So there, it should all connect through.
Good.
So, yeah, so that work is going on. So you'll see activity out there. And again, as weather improves here, more and more activity. One thing I can tell you, and I don't know if you heard this from our forester in-house, from Josh Bond, but plant material and trees are becoming very difficult to get. Last year, I know one of our suppliers, grower, wholesaler, they had sold more trees, more inventory, plant material in the last 3 months of last year than they did in the last 3 years. And again, it kind of all relates back to not only the construction going on, but everybody doing projects at their home, you know, with during COVID and things like that. So a lot of material is difficult to get. I know on this project alone, there was different caliber trees, and some of those are only certain sizes that are available for what's out there. But everything we'll move forward with that planting. I'm looking forward to getting that done. The progress continues at the Anchor View apartment project site. I believe tomorrow, I don't know if that got backed up at all, but tomorrow was their scheduled last pour of footing foundation for that building. So then you'll start to see that building come up out of ground, if you will. You'll see a pump truck down there pumping concrete for their final pour on that. 128 units, and again, you'll start to see that rise from the ground here in the coming months. We're getting closer to the start of the Quick Trip project. That's scheduled for the May 31st, June 1st start on that. And the storage, beyond storage, is moving along very well. You can see signage now going up on the building. So I think they're moving along, nearing completion of the interior of the building, I believe, the way that's moving. The project in the downtown is moving along also very well. You'll see brickwork. They're now installing brick on the front surfaces of that building. So a lot of different trades working on that building simultaneously, inside and out, progressing very well. Also, the project over on 7th Street, the 7th Street Townhomes, that's well underway. Also, the rough grading is complete, and foundation excavation for their first build over there to get started. And hopefully we get out of this rainy pattern with things going on with that. But the activities continue with everything. I know some of the projects that are being bid out there, we're hearing significant price increases, well over budget. I'm not talking about our projects right now in construction, but some of the other projects out and around have been hearing prices 30 to 40% over budget because of things. They talked to someone that told me northern Minnesota, well, not that far up away from here, but Sandstone up that direction, a sheet of 7/16 chipboard OSB was like $60 a sheet. It just skyrocketed. I think down around here they're around $30. But I mean that's a product that used to be $10 or less. So the whole building trade market for material is really skyrocketed right now. Questions of the council, things that are going on.
Any questions for Scott? You're doing good.
One thing I forgot to mention, we did interviews this afternoon for police patrol officer. So we're moving that process through. The promotions have taken place with Sergeant Lang. His retirement, again, officially retiring on April 30th. His last day at work was this Monday, the 19th, was his final day in the field. And then he will be on vacation the remainder of his time through the end of April. And so with that change, the promotions have moved forward, effective yesterday, Monday 19th. Sergeant Ray Rosales has now been promoted from officer to sergeant, and Officer Joe Odegaard has moved from patrol. His assignment is now investigation. So we've had some movement in the police department and looking to move ahead with hiring of another officer to backfill that quickly. And the interviews that we did today was a change in what we've had in the past. And this was for basically a lateral hire of experienced officers. This was the requirement was this had to be a currently existing officer working with a minimum of 2 years experience. So we're going through that process now, and we'll be moving ahead quickly with that.
Okay. Any other questions for city manager? All right, if not, reports of council, commission, committees, council member Cole.
Not a whole lot. The Park and Rec Commission has their next meeting on April 28th, next Wednesday night. It'll be 6:30 via Zoom. The goal is to continue the conversation on the park improvement plan. They walked through, as I stated earlier, the goals for year 1 and 2. Now they're going to look at, it's either 2 through 5 or 2 through 4, but it's a 3-step process. So more to come.
Okay. Council member Juan.
Yeah, not too much to update as we meet monthly. Our next meeting is May 6th at 6:30, I believe, via Zoom.
Okay. Council member Peterson.
Yeah, Metro Cities held their virtual conference that they do their elections. And that was last week. Ramsey County League of Local Government had a meeting of school districts, which was interesting because it's not all about the cities or the county. They talked of their fishbowl conversation about mental health, food insecurity, and with the, pandemic, just how they're surviving it. And kids, are back to school in a hybrid, and it's going better. And I have a league meeting this Thursday. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. And we had the Business Association meeting last week, and it was still not attended by a lot of people. It's still, I think we're still in the COVID mode. Everyone's kind of staying away yet, but we are meeting together, not virtual, but in person. And Scott went over the plan for the downtown, and it's well received. So general business, council member Cole.
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Council member Juan.
I just want to say that, we're living in a really historic time. We heard the guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin. We've heard the shooting of Dante Wright. And we're living in a pandemic. And I want to acknowledge that through these tragedies, there's many opportunities for us to be very intentional and to connect with our community, make sure that our city and our staff, everyone is connected and building relationships, because I think that'll be really important moving forward as we move into this next phase of our history here. So I just wanted to acknowledge the importance of that, and to hope that everyone can really take care of themselves, because it is going to be very difficult. A lot of people are experiencing a lot of stress, and we will see a lot of mental health issues arise if we already have not. So just to be mindful about taking care of one another, and to really seek those relationships. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wong. I was going to mention that I'd like to do a State of the City on April 27th, and I think it was well put. You know, you put that very well. I believe this is a time of healing also for our communities, for our country, and like you say, we've been through a lot. Your council, our council here, our residents, you know, we've all been through a lot, and so I'd like to, if the council doesn't mind, I'd like to do the State of the City on April 27th. It will be recorded. It won't be live. In the past, we've done something with or I've done something with a newsletter. But I think at this time, with everything that's going on in our world today, it'd be nice to do something, kind of a video of kind of what Lisa had said. So that's what I have. Councilmember Peterson, if you got any general business.
Just, I want to promote the citywide garage sales coming up. Make sure you register your garage sale with the city. That's May 6th through the 8th. And then I think the shredding and the recycling and getting rid of junk will be on May 8th down at the Public Works. Is that right, Scott?
That's correct.
So, yeah, get your, just let the city know if you're gonna have a garage sale. They'll put you on. There's a $10, I think a $10 cost of it, and then you get some goodies and you get publicized. So I know I'll be involved because I got lots of stuff to get rid of. So, thank you.
I was going to say, you can get rid of a lot of stuff because we'll have shredding, we'll have electronics, you know, during this pandemic, I think everybody upgraded all their electronic stuff, and they'll have a lot of old stuff. And yeah, so I think it's going to be busy. Councilmember Dudek,
Yeah.
City Manager Dudek.
Mayor, if you don't have anything else, one thing I would like to take time with the council and just to take a moment of silence and thought and prayers for the family. One of our planning commission member, our vice chair, John Mungy, and his family, they lost their oldest son here unexpectedly, just in the recent past, and very, very difficult time. Long time, you know, community family, and very involved with the family and that, and just want to take a time to offer our thoughts and prayers to the family and their support, and take a moment of silence to think about them.
I appreciate that. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. Prayers to the family. Again, like Councilmember Long said, difficult times right now, and we're really going through a lot as a society historically. So yeah, it's very difficult. So at this time, if nobody has anything else, I appreciate everybody doing the Zoom tonight. I know it's last minute. I want to say thank you to Maureen and Carrie for putting this together last minute. I know, Maureen, you were kind of struggling there to put it all together. So thank you very much for doing that. Morgan, thank you for showing up. Jason Zimmerman, thank you for showing up tonight. And we'll leave it at that, and everybody be safe, and motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Jenny, if you take the roll.
Councilmember Peterson,
Aye.
Councilmember Wong,
Aye.
Councilmember Cole,
Aye.
Mayor Furlong,
Well, I had the motion, but we
back up
didn't
a little
have
bit.
a first, we didn't have a first and second, so is there a motion? Councilmember Peterson motion, and
So
is there a
moved.
second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wong, and I'm an aye, so yes, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.